Japan's history is a rich tapestry of tradition, transformation, and resilience. The story begins thousands of years ago, with the Jomon period, 14,000 to 300 BCE, characterized by its unique pottery and hunter-gatherer lifestyle. Over time, Japan transitioned to the Yayoi period, 300 BCE, 300 CE, when rice farming, metalworking, and social hierarchies emerged. This era set the foundation for Japan's cultural and economic development. As time progressed, Japan entered the Yayoi period, 300 BCE, 300 CE, a transformative phase that introduced significant advancements. The Yayoi people brought with them revolutionary agricultural practices, particularly rice farming, which became the backbone of Japan's economy and sustenance. This agricultural shift required the development of irrigation systems and cooperative community efforts, fostering a more organized and hierarchical society. Metalworking skills also emerged during this era, leading to the creation of tools, weapons, and ornaments that improved daily life and warfare capabilities. Social hierarchies began to take shape as clans and local leaders gained prominence, marking the start of a structured governance system. Trade routes within Japan and with neighboring regions expanded, facilitating cultural exchange and the dissemination of new ideas. The integration of these innovations during the Yayoi period formed the foundation of Japan's cultural and economic framework, bridging the ancient traditions of the Jomon people with the beginnings of a more advanced society. By the 6th century, Japan underwent a profound cultural and spiritual transformation with the introduction of Buddhism from Korea and China. This new religion didn't replace Japan's native Shinto beliefs but merged with them, creating a distinctive spiritual and philosophical framework. Shinto, with its emphasis on nature and ancestral worship, complemented Buddhism's teachings on enlightenment and the cycle of life and death. This fusion laid the foundation for rituals, art, and architecture that reflected both traditions. Temples and shrines, such as Todaiji in Nara, became centers of religious and cultural activity. During the Nara period, 710 to 794, Japan established its first permanent capital in Nara, modeled after Chinese cities like Chang'an. The centralized government was heavily influenced by Chinese administrative systems, Confucian principles, and Buddhist ideology. This era also witnessed the compilation of Japan's earliest historical records, such as the Kojiki and Nihon Shoki, which documented the origins of the nation and its emperors. Buddhism flourished, inspiring magnificent works of art, sculpture, and architecture that remain iconic today. Following the Nara period, the Heian period, 794 to 1185, emerged as a golden age of Japanese culture and refinement. The capital moved to Heiankyo, modern-day Kyoto, marking the beginning of an era dominated by the imperial court. Aristocrats engaged in pursuits like poetry, calligraphy, and music, elevating these arts to unprecedented heights. This period also gave rise to one of Japan's most celebrated literary works, The Tale of Genji by Murasaki Shikibu. Often considered the world's first novel, this masterpiece provides a vivid portrayal of courtly life, love, and human emotions, capturing the elegance and complexity of Heian society. The blending of spiritual traditions, the centralization of government, and the flourishing of the arts during these periods left an indelible mark on Japan's history. The achievements of the Nara and Heian eras continue to influence Japanese culture and identity, showcasing the nation's capacity for innovation while honoring its traditions. The medieval period in Japan, spanning from the 12th to the 16th centuries, was a time of significant social and political transformation. This era saw the emergence of the samurai, an elite warrior class that became central to Japanese society. Samurai were bound by a strict code of honor, known as Bushido, which emphasized loyalty, discipline, and martial prowess. Alongside them were the daimyos, powerful feudal lords who controlled vast territories and commanded private armies. The daimyos often engaged in fierce battles against one another, creating a landscape of constant conflict and political fragmentation. The power struggles during this time led to the rise and fall of influential clans, such as the Minamoto, Taira, and later, the Tokugawa. The Kamakura period, 1185 to 1333, marked the establishment of the first shogunate, a military government that centralized authority under a shogun, effectively reducing the emperor to a ceremonial figure. Subsequent periods, like the Muromachi, 1336 to 1573, continued the feudal system but were marked by internal wars, such as the Unan War, 1467 to 1477, which plunged the country into further disarray. Despite the instability, the medieval period was also a time of rich cultural development. Influenced by Zen Buddhism, art forms like tea ceremonies, rock gardens, and ink painting flourished. The tea ceremony, or shinoyu, became more than just a way to drink tea. It was a meditative ritual reflecting simplicity, mindfulness, and harmony. Zen gardens, characterized by meticulously raked gravel and carefully placed stones, embodied tranquility and spiritual reflection. The period also celebrated the art of the sword, with swordsmiths crafting blades not only for combat but as works of art. Katana, the iconic Japanese sword, symbolized the samurai spirit and was revered for its craftsmanship and functionality. These cultural practices and values continue to be hallmarks of Japanese identity. The medieval period, though marked by strife, laid the foundation for many aspects of Japan's cultural and artistic heritage. The samurai ethos, Zen-inspired traditions, and innovations in art and architecture from this era remain influential in modern Japan. In the 17th century, Japan entered a new era of stability under the Tokugawa shogunate, marking the beginning of the Edo period, 1603 to 1868. This shogunate, established by Tokugawa Ieyasu, centralized power in Edo, modern-day Tokyo, and enforced a strict social hierarchy to maintain order. The country adopted an isolationist policy known as sakoku, which limited foreign influence by restricting trade and contact with the outside world to a few tightly controlled channels, such as the Dutch and Chinese at Nagasaki. This policy aimed to protect Japan's sovereignty and preserve its culture from external pressures. The relative peace during the Edo period allowed Japan's economy to flourish. Agricultural advancements and a stable currency system contributed to economic growth, while cities like Edo, Osaka, and Kyoto became bustling centers of commerce and culture. Urban culture thrived with the emergence of the merchant class, who became patrons of the arts. Kabuki theater, known for its dramatic performances and elaborate costumes, gained immense popularity. Ukiyo-e woodblock prints, which depicted scenes of everyday life, landscapes, and famous actors, also flourished, showcasing the creativity and craftsmanship of Japanese artists. Prominent figures like Hokusai and Hiroshige created works that continue to influence art globally. Despite this cultural prosperity, Japan's isolation began to show its limitations by the mid-19th century. The arrival of U.S. naval officer Commodore Matthew Perry in 1853 marked a turning point. Perry's fleet of black ships arrived in Edo Bay, demanding that Japan open its ports for trade. Faced with the threat of Western military power, the Tokugawa shogunate signed treaties that ended centuries of isolation, ushering in a period of rapid change. This event not only exposed Japan to global markets but also laid the groundwork for the Meiji Restoration, which would transform the nation into a modern industrialized state. The Edo period remains a fascinating chapter in Japan's history, blending peace, cultural creativity, and eventual change. Its legacy is visible in Japan's enduring art forms, urban traditions, and the resilience it displayed in adapting to a rapidly changing world. The Meiji Restoration of 1868 was a turning point in Japanese history, marking the end of the Tokugawa shogunate and the restoration of imperial rule under Emperor Meiji. This period heralded sweeping reforms aimed at modernizing and strengthening the nation to compete with Western powers. The government adopted Western technologies, systems, and ideologies, including a centralized administration, a modern military, and an education system based on Western models. Feudal domains were abolished, and a constitutional monarchy was established, with the promulgation of the Meiji Constitution in 1889. Industrialization became a central focus during this time. Railways, telegraph lines, and factories sprang up across the country, revolutionizing transportation, communication, and production. Japan's emphasis on industrial and economic development allowed it to transform into an economic powerhouse. Companies like Mitsubishi and Sumitomo, which began as family-run businesses, grew into major conglomerates that played a significant role in Japan's modernization. Culturally, the Meiji era was a period of blending traditions with modernity. While embracing Western fashion, art, and architecture, Japan retained its unique cultural identity. Cities like Tokyo and Yokohama underwent significant urban development, blending traditional Japanese aesthetics with modern infrastructure. Japan's transformation during the Meiji period set the stage for its emergence as a global power in the 20th century. By the early 1900s, Japan had defeated both China, in the First Sino-Japanese War, and Russia, in the Russo-Japanese War, establishing itself as a dominant force in Asia. However, its ambitions led to involvement in World War II, which ended in 1945 with devastating consequences, including the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Despite the destruction, Japan demonstrated remarkable resilience. Post-war reforms, including a new constitution emphasizing democracy and pacifism, laid the foundation for its recovery. The nation rebuilt its economy with a focus on technology, manufacturing, and innovation. By the late 20th century, Japan had become a global leader in electronics, automobiles, and cultural exports, achieving prosperity while maintaining its rich traditions. Today, Japan stands as a symbol of cultural heritage and modern innovation, balancing its traditions with a forward-looking vision.